Welcome to Mr. Grimm's Realm of the Unseen. I'm Mr. Grimm, your guide to the supernatural and the spine-chilling. If you crave thrills and mysteries, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe and join me as we explore the darkest corners of the unknown. Are you ready to face your fears? I've always been drawn to the idea of living in a van, chasing the horizon with nothing but the open road ahead. When I finally bought my van, a weathered but reliable Ford Econoline, I felt free. It was my ticket to adventure, to explore the hidden corners of the country and escape the monotony of city life. Little did I know it would also lead me to a nightmare I couldn't escape. My first month was blissful. I traveled along the Pacific Coast Highway, soaking in the ocean views, camping in secluded spots, and meeting fellow van lifers. Each night brought new stars, and each morning I woke up to a different kind of beauty. But that was before I reached that desolate stretch of road in Northern California. I had been driving for hours, enjoying the isolation, when I stumbled upon a small, unmarked dirt road. Something about it beckoned me. Perhaps it was the promise of solitude or the thrill of the unknown. I decided to follow it, convinced I'd find a perfect campsite away from the prying eyes of the world. As I navigated the winding path, the trees grew thicker and the light began to fade. I parked in a small clearing surrounded by towering pines, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and pine needles. I set up my sleeping bag in the back of the van, prepared for a peaceful night under the stars. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, an unsettling feeling crept in. The woods were silent, too silent. I tried to shake it off, distracting myself with music and a book, but my heart raced with every rustle outside. Around midnight, I awoke to a sound. It was faint at first, like whispering. I sat up, straining to listen. The whispers grew louder, an indistinct murmur swirling around me. My heart pounded as I peered out the window, but the darkness was impenetrable. Then I saw it, a flickering light in the distance. It pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing me in. I felt an inexplicable urge to investigate. I grabbed a flashlight and slipped out of the van, the cool night air sending chills down my spine. I followed the light deeper into the woods, my pulse quickening with each step. The whispers grew clearer, now sounding like voices, though I couldn't make out the words. The trees loomed around me, casting long shadows that danced in the flickering glow. After what felt like an eternity, I emerged into a small clearing. In the center stood a bonfire, its flames twisting and crackling. Around it, a group of figures huddled, their faces obscured by the flickering light. They wore tattered clothes, their eyes wide and unblinking, as if they had been waiting for me. "Welcome," one of them said, their voice gravelly. "We've been expecting you." I took a step back, feeling the primal urge to flee. "Who are you?" "Those who wander," another figure replied, their grin unsettling. "We share the secrets of the woods." I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me to run, but the air buzzed with something magnetic, drawing me closer. "What do you want?" "To show you the truth," the first figure said, extending a hand toward the fire. "Join us. Embrace the freedom of the lost." Fear clawed at me, but I felt an inexplicable pull to the fire. I stepped forward, unable to resist. They welcomed me with open arms, and soon I was sitting among them, the heat of the fire warming my skin. As the night wore on, they shared stories of wanderers who had come before me, adventurers who had found solace in the woods, only to be consumed by them. Each tale was more harrowing than the last, but I couldn't look away. The fire seemed to mesmerize me, the shadows dancing around us like specters. Hours slipped by, and the whispers transformed into a haunting melody, wrapping around me like a shroud. I felt myself drifting, my consciousness fading in and out. I caught glimpses of their faces, twisted in rapture and despair. Suddenly, I jolted awake. The fire had dwindled to embers, and the clearing was empty. Panic surged through me as I realized I was alone. I bolted up, searching for any sign of the figures, but the woods were silent once more. I raced back to my van, fumbling with the keys as I fought to control my breathing. The whispers echoed in my mind, taunting me, but I couldn't stop. I had to leave. As I drove down the dirt road, the trees seemed to close in around me, their branches clawing at the sides of the van. The weight of what I had experienced hung heavy in the air, suffocating me. I didn't stop until I reached the main road, the asphalt feeling like a lifeline. But something had changed. I could no longer shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every car that passed felt like a judgment, every shadow a threat. I drove through the night, adrenaline pumping, until exhaustion finally pulled me into an all-too-brief sleep at a rest stop. When I awoke, the sun was high, but my anxiety remained. I drove to a nearby town, hoping to find some semblance of normalcy. As I walked through a diner, I overheard a conversation between two locals. "Did you hear about the van lifers?" one said, his voice low. "They say some of them go missing in those woods." My stomach dropped. I listened closer, my heart racing. They spoke of a group that had been luring people into the forest for years, feeding on their dreams and drawing them into the darkness. I left the diner, my mind racing. I had to get away, but as I approached my van, I noticed something on the windshield, a small piece of paper. My hands shook as I unfolded it. It was a crude drawing of the bonfire, surrounded by figures. I glanced around, the weight of their eyes heavy on me. In that moment, I understood. I was marked, forever bound to the woods I thought I had escaped. The whispers were always there, waiting for the next night I dared to wander alone. And as I drove away, I knew I could never truly leave.